And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome here.
Good morning. For some of us, it's good evening, I think.
Yes. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining. We have a very exciting quadruple header today, actually. So a very special day. I don't think we've ever had that many segments in one webinar before.
Well, it's indicative of all the action going on in the world of AI, where things change. It's so fast. And I was thinking about the fact that we had recently this CEO of OpenAI leave and then come back. Well, that's happened before in the past with Apple when Steve Jobs left, I think, unceremoniously around 1984, 85, and then came back, I think, around 97, so more than 10 years. At the beginning of this, people said, well, that's the same thing happening at OpenAI, except it happened in 4 or 3 days now. So that's the difference between the 80s and today. We're going to be showing different talks today on different ways that people are using AI in FME, and I'm so glad you've joined us. So should we get started, Elizabeth?
Yeah, looks like it is that time here. So welcome, everyone, to Igniting Next Level Productivity with AI-Infused Data Integration Workflows.
In terms of agenda today, we've got an action-packed lineup for you. Not 1, but 2 bonus segments, Elizabeth. But just by way of introduction, we're going to talk a little bit about who we are at Safe and FME. Then we're going to head down to New Zealand, where our friends at Locus are going to get us going, really, by covering off the good, the bad, and the FME of AI. And then from there, we'll get into a more serious discussion of integrating GeoAI models into FME by Terra. And then our first bonus presentation is all about unlocking generative AI on your own terms, literally by installing things that you can run without needing to be connected to the internet and still use generative AI, by Oliver over at Tensing, who's going to join us. And then lastly, we've recruited Dimitri to come and show us some of the most amazing things he's been up to at SAFE in the last few weeks that really push the boundaries of practicality. And those last 2 items were not on your sign-up sheet when you sign up for this webinar. The webinar is scheduled to go a full 90 minutes. If you don't have time, you can always get the recording and catch that at the end, but you won't want to miss the end pieces. And of course, we have our usual conclusion and wrap up. And then with the time we've got left, we'll have some Q&A. And I think most, if not all of our presenters are able to hang around, but for sure, Dimitri will be there, as well as I think Oliver, and we can, and I think our friends at Terra as well. It's only the New Zealand folks that might be having to head off before then.
All right, and just quickly here, if you're new to Livestorm, if you have any audio issues throughout or video issues, click that help button on the bottom left. It's got 4 simple steps to take. Share your emoji reactions with us throughout the webinar. And then we'll also have the opportunity for questions, Q&A at the end. So if you do have any questions throughout, please do get those into the questions panel as we go through here. We do have a Q&A team helping us out today. And the chat, keep letting us know where you're tuning in from there and share your comments as well.
Yeah, let's see where the people are listening in from. I have a feeling this is a topic with worldwide appeal. So it's going to be interesting to see. Let us know where you're dialed in from today.
All right, and I'll hand things back over to Dale for a quick introduction.
All right, well, thanks everyone for joining us today. So one of the things that I've seen speakers say is that AI will take your job. Well, that's a bit harsh to say, but the better conclusion is that AI is going to give you a job that's better than the one that you have right now. And in many ways, a recent thing I just heard a talk about suggested that all of us now have a team that works for us. So whether you actually have a real team of humans or you work on your own, no matter who you are, you actually have a team helping you do your job even better. And so that's what we're going to explore in this webinar today, is one aspect of how you can harness that team when you're doing data integration and see how that will really, really make your job better, more efficient, and more enjoyable. So a couple of words just about Safe Software and FME. We have been around, closing in really soon on 30 years. Our birthday is December the 13th. It'll be our 30th, so we're pretty excited about that, with customers around the world and many, many organizations using our technology, and many, many partners around the world. And actually, we're joined today by partners from New Zealand to the UK to Germany that are presenting some of their insights around this exciting field of AI and FME. What is FME? Well, it is an enterprise data integration platform with a focus or a speciality, as one might say, on spatial data. it manifests in two key products, FME Form, which runs on desktops, Mac OS, Linux, and of course Windows, where you build and run your data workflows or do ad hoc data exploration. But if you create something that you want to run all the time automatically, then you push that up to FME Flow, which runs on servers or in the cloud. And that will then run those data transformations whenever something interesting happens. It's 2 in the morning, or someone clicks a button on a website, or an API call is made, or a file arrives in a directory, or any set of interesting triggers, a webhook fires. That's what FME Flow is all about, automating the flow of data according to the rules you set up on FME Form. And of course, we have FME Flow hosted, where we'll even look after the machine that Flow is running on for you. So that's what FME is all about. And with that, I think I'm going to go all the way down to New Zealand. We're going to scare Darren out of bed at about 3 in the morning there, I think, maybe even worse. Darren, can you take it away and tell us all about AI, the good, the bad, and the FME?
Awesome. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation on AI, the good, the bad, and the not what you think. Can't see how I tricked you with that little title change there. You know, look, I like to keep people on their toes. There's going to be no sleepers in my show, presentation. Anyway, look, this is a special little number, this one. It's actually not the first time it's been delivered. Originally, Chris Morris presented this at one of our Locus events in Bonnie, Little New Zealand. Do you like how I put the Bonnie in New Zealand? You've been Scottish and all. Anyway, look, I had the honor of delivering this at the recent Safe World Tour conference that we had in Bonn, Germany. And by the way, look, if you've never been to one of Safe's conferences before, 100% recommend you go if you get the opportunity. And on that note, let's get into the introduction. So my name is Darren Fergus, just a little bit of a smidgen about me. I'm a certified professional in both desktop and server. I know I can hear you, Form and Flow, but that's just so everybody understands what it is. I'm also a certified trainer, and I like to think of myself as sometimes an entertainer, but hey, proof is in the pudding. And I also like to think of myself as probably one of the biggest advocates you'll ever meet with FME. And I've got a few good stories about that. But, you know, obviously Don and Dale might like, you're not going to beat us, Darren, but yeah, that makes sense. So a little bit of an introduction on Locus. For those of you who don't know who we are proud to be recognized as Safe Software Platinum Partners. So we've got offices in New Zealand and Australia, and we've been 15 years on the FME journey, selling and supporting, and more importantly, building relationships both locally and around the world. And we've got 7 or so experts with FME technical certifications. Right, so here we have a little bit of an agenda to kind of set the scene and the flavor and what we're going to be talking about today. Obviously, I'm going to be the talking, you're going to be doing the listening. Are we now doomed? Hold on a second. Wait, we've got to get this to sound a bit more dramatic, right? Are we now doomed? Okay, that's tickly on the nose there. But look, from a philosophical standpoint, and now that we've opened up Pandora's box, what does it mean for our future? Artificial intelligence defined. So that's really understanding what AI means, especially in the world, you know, where there are lots of terms thrown around within the same context. Machine learning, smart systems, etc. FME and AI. If AI is so useful, then why do we even need FME? And well, look, that's not quite true. I can guarantee you there's going to be some cool things that we can do with FME and AI working together. And of course, that's what we're here to talk about today. FME and IoT. As we know, FME is already doing some of these other things. So how does incorporating AI into the industry for 4.0? And for those of you who have no idea what 4.0 is, I can't even say it, 4.0, we'll cover that one off for everyone. Before we venture deeper into today's discussion, I think just a little bit of a background on my story with AI, and you know, don't worry, you'll see where I'm going with this because I like to talk. I run a supercar experience-based business in New Zealand, and that's literally powered by everything FME except, of course, for the car itself. But you know, over the years, there's some really, really cool things I've done that many of you would even think that FME could do. For example, automated video editing. But that's obviously a cool story for another day. Anyway, as part of always developing cool new things with FME for my business, and have these light bulb moments all the time, I stumbled in ChatGPT during Christmas 2022, and in no time at all, you know, the OCD person out of me, the ADHD person, just went into, you know, full-on work mode, full-on dev mode with my new little collie ChatGPT, which of course had no care in the world that it was working Christmas time, and it was assisting me in building some HTML templates that I could use in FME. So the whole premise was so that it would build HTML templates, I could bring them into FME, and I could use them to dynamically create an interactive booking dashboard, which is something I always wanted but lacked the time to research on how to do. This, my friends, was a key moment. As it was there, I recognized that this was the dawn of AI collaboration. And that's what just happened right there. And that's a key word right there that I want everybody to think about. It's that kind of collaboration. And we're going to touch on that a little bit more shortly. So I'm going to have to test here. I don't think it's working, but I got a little bit of Terminator music playing here, right? So I'm going to make the assumption it's not playing. So just picture this. I know that's a okay, anyway, so you get the point, right? So the question here is, are we going to be replaced by AI? I'm sure most of us have seen the movie Terminator. It depicts a broken, war-ravaged, helpless future where humans are destroyed and dominated by the more powerful machines. Is that really what we've got in store for us? Or, you know, from a more positive standpoint, somebody like me, I like to think positively, you know, perhaps it's a future where humans and AI work together. And just like I alluded to earlier, collaboratively solving problems, and just perhaps it might also mean that we have more free time as AI helps us to become more efficient in the work or tasks that we do through our collaboration with AI. So let's go with that, and let's go and look at FME and AI and look at a workspace that we have, which is quite exciting. Okay, so hopefully now everybody can see this workspace. Okay, we got a thumbs up. Right, fantastic. Right, so folks, for those of you that are, you know, very unfamiliar with FME, you know, those of you that might be new, and we'll zoom in here a wee bit. But right now, what we're looking at is a workspace. And actually, the area that we're looking at here is called a canvas. I like to say, you know, like if you were an artist, and I'm not an artist, but I like to think of an artist when it comes to FME, right? So every good workspace should have bookmarks, and it should have annotation, and it should look lovely and pretty, laid out, nice and tidy, nice and easy. The flow, look at the flow. The flow goes from left to right. These are transformers, and these transformers are changing data inside these bookmarks. They're relatable items. It makes us easy to find our way around. But I love that. And every good workspace should also have, just over here, and by the way, I'm not going to training mode right now, but every good workspace should have something about the workspace. So let's have a look. What does this do? This workspace allows a user to define the following order to generate a presentation. If we really want to be specific, we'd say a PowerPoint presentation. So subject matter, number of slides, style and image, you know, for example, photorealistic, style of writing, e.g. Shakespeare. And by the way, well, you'll find out when we run it, right? We're going to go with Shakespeare. That's the one thing I'm going to choose to run because that's kind of cool. Anyway, so we got this workspace, and it's going to do all these things via these transformers. The green ones, by the way, are the AI ones that we're going to use. They're all configured up. And you can see I've run this in the past. You know, it's always good to do a test on your workspace before you carry it out, but we're going to run the thing from back to start to finish. So we're going to go rerun into our workspace. And okay, so here's the thing, folks. Hope everybody's listening. Can everybody turn around? And I want everybody to give me a subject. I want some people just throw in some subjects. I'm going to pick one. Jan's going to tell me from the chat what you're going to pick. So give me a subject. Give me a cool subject, folks. Come on. Let's go. Let's see. Remember, this is a PowerPoint present. Cats. Oh, everybody loves the cats. Yeah. Okay, Lego. Okay, Lego. Let's do Roman Empire. I'm going to pick Roman Empire, folks. Oh, I think this is going to fit well, right? We're going to pick Roman Empire. Appreciate everybody's interaction there. Okay, right, next question. Somebody else. Do we want photorealistic, fantasy, modern Disney? Roman and modern Disney. I wonder what that would look like, right? Come on, let's pick one. Let's go for it. It's coming up next. Modern Disney. Okay, we're going to take that. Everybody wants modern Disney. Yeah, I hope this works. And we're just going to stick with 3 slides because obviously I don't want to be doing lots and lots of presentations, right? So, oh, look, sorry, Dale, we did pick your one there. So let's hit run. And we're just going to leave that, going to live its best life right now. And that's going to, hopefully that's going to run and complete, and we'll come back to that shortly. Right, okay, so, right, now we're moving on. Defining artificial intelligence. Well, let's have a bit of a game here, but that's not a game I need you to interact with. It's a game for me and chat all the different AI tools, right? So if we had to define artificial intelligence in exactly 15 words, is that something I could do or you could do? 100%, right? But here's the thing, especially for me, I go, oh, I want to define something. I'll give you an essay, right? And then it's like, oh, you don't need an essay. I'll give you a paragraph. And I guarantee you that paragraph is going to be more than 15 words. And then I'm probably going to spend all day trying to get the 15 perfect words that I can think of, right? And that's, so it's a tough task for me to be able to do that. However, let's go through and let's ask some of these AIs, this challenge, right? Define artificial intelligence in exactly 15 words. So ChatGPT, Let's see what it came up with. AI is a development of computer systems that simulate human intelligence and perform intelligent tasks. Boom, boom. Bing AI. Artificial intelligence is the ability of machines to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. Perfect. Right. Google Bard. Show of hands. Actually, not a show of hands. Type in the message. Have any of you used Google Bard? Yep, just fire in the message there. We'll have a look at that a little bit later. But, you know, Google Bard's a bit different. So let's ask Google Bard to see what it come up with. Artificial intelligence is the simulation of human intelligence in machines. That's interesting that Google Bard considers that an AI should be able to act autonomously, which is why it only gave me 10 words to start with. It was being autonomous, but like the OCD person that I am, I asked it again. I said, no, I want 15 words exactly. Can you please regenerate that? Following my instructions exactly. And that's the problem with these AIs. They don't sometimes listen to what you say. Anyway, so Google Bard came back and went, you are right. Here's the definition of AI in 15 words exactly. The simulation of human intelligence in machines that are able to learn and act autonomously. Good result. All right. So, you know, everything that we see these days essentially has some kind of mention of cool AI tools, you know, from the news, social media, and many of these stories often reference the more well-known ones, such as, you know, ChatGPT, Google Bard, which we just talked about as an example. But here's the thing. These big names get all the limelight. And as you probably guessed, that there's like a world of AI out there, right? Which is actually so much broader than, you know, those specific examples that we give. So for example, image generation. I mean, you know, is anyone here ever tried to use AI to whip up a really cool image of, say, for example, a photorealistic image of, say, a tiger? Well, you know, that's where the new image generation champions such as DALL-E 2, Midjourney, and Leap AI come in. These cool little AI whiz kids on the block, so to speak, will generate you a tiger that looks straight out of the National Geographic magazine. And look, don't get me wrong, sometimes what you'll get is you'll get like a target that kind of looks perfectly, but there's something slightly different around it, and you can like zoom in and you can see these little imperfections, but it's still miles ahead of my own artistic skills. Never mind the amount of procrastination it takes to even get the first line of the canvas. And if you need a logo or a fancy stock image, don't worry, because guess what? They've got you back there too. And again, guess what? We're thinking in the context of using AI in collaboration as a way for us to optimize how we solve problems, essentially making things easier for ourselves. So here's the real juicy part. 100% in the future, it's going to be filled with AI. And, you know, that's in a very short space of time. You just need to look at what we've achieved in the last year or so, right? And obviously, just recently, we've got FME, which has got a new inbuilt generative AI looking part to it that's helping us out. And, you know, that's something I'm sure perhaps Dale will pick up a little bit later, but you know, that's just for starters. And then just imagine your everyday tools like Microsoft 365 getting an AI upgrade. Well, look out, because Microsoft 365 Copilot is just come through. In fact, I just actually had that updated on my computer earlier, and I was like, seeing this little icon. It's like, oh, that's Copilot. I was talking about that. Anyway, look, ultimately, I think we're looking at an era where, you know, your AI mate or your AI work colleague, if you can call it that, of course we can, it's 2023, I think will essentially know everything in your organization. And that's inside and out, including your dirty little secrets, you know, and that's awesome. And that's also perhaps scary at the same time, because I mean, you know, we might need to be a little bit careful with that technology, especially when it comes to protecting organizations' IP, right? So, you know, Safe Software, they've, you know, been consistently at the forefront of innovation, and you can see that they have no intention of slowing down. And if you haven't already, go check out one of Safe's presentations called Leveraging Generative AI, Exploring New Technology for Data Integration. This is a real great example of their, you know, commitment to pushing boundaries. With FME 2023, they've done what they do best, and they've integrated the tools from OpenAI, which is the driving force behind ChatGPT and DALL-E 2. So, you know, whether you're looking at generating insightful content using AI or streaming dense information into concise summaries, like some of you already done, you know, with the PDF reports, right? FME definitely makes it easy to do that. I mean, look, here's the thing. If Chris, if we use him as an analogy, with no FME experience, was able to build the workspace that we looked earlier, obviously I had a few tweaks in that, right? That is an amazing thing, right? And just on that note, it makes you wonder how much quicker AI being built into FME will make it for newbies to be able to build something. That for me sounds pretty awesome, right? And for those of you, you know, requiring solutions that require visual AI, then guess what? We've got the OpenAI's image generator and the Leap AI connector that we've been incorporated within FME, paving the way for that AI-driven visual generation. And again, opening up the whole prospect of possibilities. It's mind-blowing. Although Google Bard and this is something to think about, although Google Bard is still sort of unfolding its potential, the prospects are kind of intriguing. And, you know, should it become available, I imagine Safe Software would also implement that to FME. But even if they didn't, guess what? Guess what? You could leverage its API using the HTTP caller, right? So, you know, either way, it's a win. If it's in, if it's not, you again use the HTTP caller and you can go and do that, right? So perhaps Google Bard will bring a new dimension in the data expression, and again, only time will tell. Time and time again, FME rises to the challenge, consistently rolling out new features and, of course, updating our awesome FME toolkit. It's this dedication to advancement that we come to appreciate. So let's look at the Industrial Revolution. So starting with the first Industrial Revolution, can't say that, first Industrial Revolution. It started in the 18th century. It introduced steam power, leading to faster mechanized production and transport innovations like steamships and locomotives. Industrial Revolution, the second one, started in the 19th century. It saw the rise of electricity assembly lines. Henry Ford's car manufacturing became quicker and cheaper. For me, you know, from a car point of view, I look at the Ford GT, right? That's kind of cool. Third revolution from the 1970s, it ushered in automation through programmable controls and computers, heralding a new tech era. You know, for those that remember the good old Spectrum computers, that was my generation. Industrial Revolution. Now we're in the fourth Industrial Revolution, or what we refer to as Industry 4.0, as I was corrected when I first started talking about this, where essentially information and communication technologies amplify industry. I have no idea what that means, but there we go. It advances the third revolution with computerized systems gaining online digital twins. This networking fosters communication between facilities, making production near self-governing, paving the way for interconnected smart factories. And guess what? AI is the completing factor of that. Makes you wonder what the fifth revolution is going to be. Anyway, I genuinely believe Safe Software is on fire. They've been diving deep into the world of cutting-edge IoT for a few years now. And for those of you that kind of live and breathe FME, like myself, most days, you know, we've seen how they've rolled out a collection of different connectors and transformers that really make a difference to what we do. And they make it easy for us to be able to interact and connect to those things. And tackling everything from real-time data streams to facilitating efficient IoT communication. I can't help but think we're way ahead of the curve, and it's just the best in the market. But then perhaps, just perhaps, I might be a bit touch biased there, right? So it's going to be exciting to watch FME evolve with AI, and that, my friends, gets me pretty darn excited, and I'm very appreciative that I'm along for this ride with those guys. Okay, so now that we're all buzzed up, let's go and check out our PowerPoint presentation. So let's just go and open up our workspace. Boom, here we go. This looks good. Right, so let's have a look. Everything looks green. We go over to here. Let's go and open this guy up. Presentation. Here we go. All right, let's go and have a look at our slides. Here we go, 11:14. It's 11:21. Yeah, that makes sense. Just making sure you don't think I'm cheating, folks, right? I like to do things live. I like to be prepared for when things go wrong. You know, here we go. And then the PowerPoint slides opens up to the other screen. So let's bring it around so everybody can see it. Didn't think of that one, did you, Darren? Right, okay, here we go. Bring it over here. Okay, the rise of the Roman Empire. Julius Caesar rises to power and conquers Gaul. Augustus becomes the first emperor. I mean, guys, look at this. This is fantastic, right? Look at these kind of bullet points here. This is kind of neat, right? Look at the image. Look at that image. God damn it, that's so good, right? Look at, that's actually one of the best images. I mean, I'm even shocked now how well this has come out, right? That's just fantastic, right? Legacy of Rome, developed a legal system to influence many modern legal systems. Yeah, Latin became the foundation of many European languages. The end of an empire. Like, how cool is that? But guess what? I've got something else for you guys. I've got a script to go along with it. Right, our workspace, which is just totally cool, goes and generates a script. So guess what? You're going to get like a second presentation. Remember I said, let's go with Shakespeare. Obviously, it's not going to be Shakespeare. I'm definitely not a Shakespeare type guy. I'm probably going to have to get in the mode, but let's see how we can do this, right? So let's go back to our little workspace here, and let's see how this goes. So document, let's go back into a little folder. Right, where's our script? 11:14, we've got a script, folks. Let's open this up. I hope it opens. It's typical. It opens up on the other screen. Like, this is what you need AI for. It's like, Darren obviously wants to open on the other screen. Oh, it did it. Right, must have heard me. Right, okay, let's have a look. Roman Empire. All right, okay, here we go. Let's see if we can get this. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Today I stand before you to speak of a grand empire that once ruled the world. The mighty Roman Empire, a tale of power, conquest, and civilization that spanned centuries. In the year 753 BC, Rome was founded by the legendary Romulus and Remus. From humble beginnings, the city grew into a republic, where the people had a voice in their governance. The Roman Republic thrived, expanding its influence across the Italian peninsula. But it was not until the rise of Julius Caesar that the Roman Empire truly began to take shape. Anyway, you get the point, folks, right? That's impressive. All built by a workspace. So let's just go back and have a look at how this workspace works, right? How this workspace works. I love the rhyme on that, right? So here we go. So essentially, look, without going into all the nitty gritties, right, we've got a ChatGPT connector here, and that takes basically our user prompts and it turns them into something that ChatGPT can turn into some useful information that we can apply, again, back to the AI to go and build our script, right, our sections of our script, our slides, the content for our slides. And then, of course, every workspace usually has something. We've got to transform the data because we're dealing with a response that comes from the API itself. So we're having to pull out sections, clean it up, tidy it up, format it in the way that we want. So it's going to be suitable to go into our PowerPoint slide. And we're passing, more information to the ChatGPT that provides us information around the images. Then we're taking it so we can create for the bullet points within the slides itself. And then, of course, we're doing some more transformations. And then a long story short, the other key part here, which is important, is this guy here, Leap AI Connector. So we have a little look behind the hood here, so to speak, and you can see we've got like a response body, we've got image, so we've got information. Here's our prompt. This is what we're looking for. Write a detailed description of a single line image that can be used in a text image generator, blah, 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 blah. And then that goes and generates our images, okay? So that there, my friends, is a workspace that was built by somebody that had no knowledge, or I don't want to say no knowledge, very limited knowledge of FME. And then, that's Chris Morris, he put his hand up there, he's over on the side, you can't see him. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful thing right there. And don't get me wrong, the masterpiece, as I like to say, the one that we look at now is, the sort of cleaned up version of that. But here's the thing, folks, right? There's different levels of, understanding and knowledge when it comes to FME. And I love a community where people are prepared to share and give, constructive advice to people. It's like, hey, it's not that you've done something wrong. It's like, you've done a great job. You've solved a wonderful problem, right? Now, what can we do to make it better? We're always going through that continual refinement. And that's probably all I'm going to say on that. But anyway, there's an example of taking AI, working collaboratively with the AI, to produce something that's really fantastic, and obviously that's more efficient for what we might do. And by the way, I can tell you now, the presentation we did here is all legit. It wasn't done with AI. Okay, to summarize, AI's emerged as one of the most transformative technologies of our time and has the potential to assist us rather than replace our human endeavors. So let's replace it. And look, things are moving pretty quickly. And, I think we can all get a good understanding of how that is. But I think it's time to get on board with AI, right? As you can see, FME is a great tool to kind of explore the AI functionality with. But don't forget, that for the time being, at least, we're still in charge and we get to define how AI helps us. And maybe that's a good thing before AI decides we're no longer needed and becomes our masters or worse. So, folks, I'd just like to say a big thank you to everybody. And, your patience just while we're flicking between, different technologies here is always a little bit harder when you're on different platforms. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Darren. That certainly set us off to a good start, and we're ready to dive into more in further applications of AI in the land of FME. But thank you for that survey of what the possible is. And so in our next segment, we're going to be looking at how we can integrate GeoAI models in FME. And we're joined this morning by our friends from Terra, Christopher Britsch and Dennis Wilhelm, who are going to guide us through GeoAI and FME. Christopher, Dennis, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So let us introduce to you all first. So my name is Christopher Britsch. I'm from Terra. I'm a consultant there, and my focus is AI, so AI methods, AI projects, and especially the topic of GeoAI and how to further get on with it. So Dennis?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. So my topics at Terra are usually all sorts of data integration products. and projects. So I'm usually involved in all of the, or not in all, but in many of the different projects we have at Conterra, starting from the beginning with the requirements analysis up to the implementation. And I'm also working in our GeoAI working group and building our GeoAI framework together with Christopher.
Thank you. So let me start with the agenda. So what we have planned today for this presentation. First, I'm going to start off with what's GeoAI. So what we're going to talk about when we talk about GeoAI, and then what we're talking about when talking about integrating GeoAI into FME processes. Then I'm going to give over to my colleague. He's going to tell you about the Conterra GeoAI framework in FME and give you a project example so you can see what it's all about. And then I'm going to have the honor again to conclude all this. But let's start with what's GeoAI. We define GeoAI as a machine learning technology which allows us to capture and analyze complex patterns and structures in mainly geospatial data. Of course, we use other data as well if it fits the project, but the focus definitely is on geospatial data. This is also where this term derives from. So for us, or at least in our experience, what we see, the typical setup of a GeoAI project consists mainly of the data pre-processing and of the integration and operation parts. So for the data pre-processing, of course, if you work with geospatial data, you need specialized knowledge. And this is where this terminology, this term of GeoAI derives from. But today we want to focus on this part of integration operation. And the reason for that is that currently with many models upcoming and many foundation models that can do amazing things, people are already quite equipped to do amazing stuff, but it's still quite difficult to get it where you need it and to integrate it exactly where you want to use it. So at Conterra, we focus on 4 different parts of AI, or let's more precisely say parts of machine learning. So there's natural language processing, which we use to give our software a voice and to make it voice controlled. Data enhancement, where we find anomalies and mistakes, errors in big data records. In forecasting, we try to forecast events happening, damaging events happening, always in weather dependent systems. And in object and image recognition, we find objects and images in satellite data, in 3D point clouds and aerial imagery. So we try to get the customer from the beginning on and help from the beginning on in this whole journey. So we usually start with use case determination, with workshops and so on. Then we go into analyzing the existing data, accumulating further data, which is often necessary, and then into this big, huge part of data pre-processing, try to help as much as we can there to get to the point of preparing the first POC model. And if it fits the needs, going on to training and optimizing this model. And then to this part, we're focusing today on the part of integration and monitoring and support, because very rarely the first model you will integrate will be the model you will use the next 3 to 5 years to come. There will be optimization, there will be new training cycles. So this is a quite important part to have it integrated and monitored quite well. And this is also quite important for us to integrate it where you need it and how you need it, not to demolish the whole process you already have going on, but to find the pain points in any process, see where it's not going too smoothly, and see if we can find a solution with AI that can help you make this process smooth again. So this is the big part about integrating GeoAI in FME, because in FME, you're already there where you want it, where you need it. And I love this citation by Chris Lehmann about technology in general, which says technology must be like oxygen, ubiquitous, necessary, and invisible. Doesn't mean that you have to hide that you're using AI at all, but you should be able to give the user something that he can use in this environment that he's used to, and doesn't have to change the whole system, doesn't have to change into a whole new platform, and doesn't have to learn new things just to get into new technology, but it should flow quite seamlessly into what already is used to. So, and with this introduction, I'm giving over to my colleague who's going to show you the Conterra GeoAI framework.
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for the introduction. As we mentioned, we want to talk about GeoAI at Conterra. And what I'm going to tell you is now a current work in progress from a project that we try to develop into some sort of a product. So it's an approach that has been used in multiple projects already. And we're now thinking about how to make this more available to more people, how to generalize the idea and make it usable in FME more easily. So main obstacles in AI model implementation is that it's often performed by non-FME users. So we have some sort of Python experts, some data scientists who are working usually with Jupyter notebooks, Python scripts, and so on. And it's sometimes unclear how these scripts can be integrated in business processes. And that's because the tools used for that are just not the tools that are commonly used in the actual data integration process, in the actual business process that companies might already have. And we also have an obstacle that AI models are usually based on all sorts of different libraries, which might be something like TensorFlow, Keras, or PyTorch. And all of these can be quite hard to install, and it's usually not shipped, in our case, with FME. So FME users should also be able to integrate these models, because not every FME user will be able to be an expert in some sort of data science model or whatever. But FME users are usually aware of the business processes customers have and are building their own. One of the obstacles we want to tackle is how to integrate these libraries in FME. And this can sometimes be quite complicated because of some sort of dependency mismatches. So not every Python library wants to talk to another one. And we also can have different hardware requirements. For example, libraries we want to use on a Linux system might be different to the ones we want to use on a Windows machine. So our approach is basically to provide an AI model runtime that can be maintained separate from the actual FME workspace or the FME infrastructure. And we are providing transformers to easily connect to this runtime from FME. And the main idea behind that is that we can have a virtual Python environment, for example, that has all the individual libraries that we need. As I mentioned, TensorFlow, PyTorch, or whatever you might need for your specific use case. And the interesting part is that we are defining an interface to call these individual libraries, and especially the models that are programmed using these libraries using HTTP, HTTPS, or CLI interface. And once we have all of that, we can create our FME processes just like we are used to. We can have a process, for example, here we have some sort of data preparation at the beginning. We are writing out this data using a feature writer. And then in the middle is the main piece of work. We have our GeoAI connector who's doing all the heavy lifting. The transformer is providing the data to the actual AI model. And once the model has finished its processing, we can read the data back in, do some quality tests, for example, and write the data back to its final destination. And for this, we created two transformers. We've been developing these transformers based on the new package SDK developed by Safe Software. And it's quite nice that you can have well-established parameters that can be used to configure how your transformer should connect to your AI model. So for example, you can have a local or remote connection. And depending on the setting, you are basically configuring in your transformer, the different UI already shows you that you have different connection parameters. For example, a path to your local Python environment and the path to your Python file, or also to your remote instance where you could have, for example, a web service running with a specific web connection. The setting parameters would be your data sets, but you can also provide some sort of custom parameters that will be different depending on the model you are using. And to show you one example where we actually used this framework integration is based on the use case of the anomaly detection. So in our scenario, we have various files that are uploaded to a system. And all of these different files might have different data sets containing different schemas. Each individual file can consist out of many columns, so it's tabular data, and it would be quite hard to define individual rules for all of these individual attributes or columns from your data set, because there are just so many of them, and they might also have rules that only apply if you combine these attributes. And there have been errors in the past based on in the system based on these file uploads that compromised the system. So it's quite important to make sure that in the future these file uploads are consistent and that you don't have any anomalies in them. And the solution is basically to use an AI model that detects anomalies by comparing the current data set to previous data sets. And we have two approaches to this topic. One is called an autoencoder using TensorFlow. And the other one, which isn't actually AI, but more or less machine learning, is a principal component analysis using sklearn. And of course, you have some conditions that need to apply. So the schema for each dataset type needs to be consistent. So you can't just throw any data at that model. And of course, as always, when talking about AI, you need to have a minimum number of previous datasets that can be used to train the model. So what's an autoencoder? Autoencoder is quite an interesting concept. It's basically the idea that you have a network that tries to condense all the information it gets into like a bottleneck, a small part in the middle, where only the most important aspects of this data set are still available. And from this bottleneck in the middle, it tries to recreate the initial input. So it's basically an AI model that tries to figure out what the input data was based on the small bottleneck in the middle. And if we insert a specific element in the input and the output matches, then we know that our model was quite good and we don't have any anomalies. But if the input and the output do not match, then we know that there might have been some changes due to the structure of the data, to the contents that are just not conforming to what the model actually learned. So in the example we saw on the left, there was an icon that was put into the autoencoder. And if the icon, which just stands for any data that could go into a model, is different in the output, then we know that we have an anomaly. So the project example looks kind of similar to what we already saw in the first smaller workspace demonstration. So it's basically a workspace that's trying to read in data. In this case, we have a database that stores the previous versions, so we can count if we have enough versions actually to calculate these models. And this depends on your model and based on your data sets, how many you need. But after that, we try to read in the current data, but also get the previous data sets. And we join all of that together to make two data sets, basically a training data set and the actual test data set. And all of that is submitted through our GeoAI connector to our AI model. And once processing has been finished, we can read in the process result, which is basically a list of anomalies in this case that we can write out. And with this, I'm giving back to Christopher to do the conclusion of this talk.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. So yes, let me conclude this awesome tool. So what we've seen is that the current challenge is often integration for AI models. So constructing these AI models becomes easier day by day. You see more and more pre-trained models popping up, and you see more foundation models that can do amazing things. But at least currently, to integrate these models productively into your processes can still be quite challenging. And the importance is that the integration flows quite seamlessly and in familiar and custom environments, because the people that will be using those tools, that will be using these AI tools, might not be the people that actually make them, but just need to do them in their daily processes and to adjust them there. So they need their custom, the familiar environment. The GeoAI connector in FME solves exactly this problem because you can integrate pre-trained models, you can integrate custom-made models. And we often heard about how many models you have there. In the previous talk, you heard how many models are already out there and how many can be used. But we also know that there is not one model that can do everything and you can just implement it and can do everything you want with it. But there has to be some certain amount of flexibility that allows you to implement custom-made models if necessary. And the amazing thing is with the GeoAI connector in FME, you can do what you can often do in FME because not every functionality has to be implemented, but everything can actually be connected. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Christopher and Dennis. I really appreciate the practical application of this, and I can totally see how this type of technology can be so helpful in many, many situations where data quality is so important, but a human can't keep on top of everything. And I also really love your concluding point that not everything has to be exactly part baked in of FME, but you can connect it into FME, and that's exactly what you showed here today. Okay, our next speaker is going to talk to us about unlocking the power of generative AI on your very own terms. And so we're joined by Oliver Morris from Tensing. Let's turn on our cameras and welcome Oliver to the stage here.
Hi.
There he is. Good morning / good afternoon / good evening, Oliver.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening.
Yes.
Good to see you both.
Well, this part of our webinar came about because Oliver was in touch with me about some of the talks you were doing, I think, across the UK. Is that where these were?
Yeah, we ran basically a few talks, London, Cardiff, and Edinburgh. And one of the things that kept coming up was, I guess, around the security kind of aspects of generative AI. So I thought it would be nice to talk a little bit about potentially some ways around it. So yeah, hopefully it's of interest to those people that maybe their IT teams don't allow them to use OpenAI and other such tools at the moment.
Excellent. Yeah, I know when we released the AI functionality, the AI Assistant FME in September, of course, the team was all excited. I was all excited. The first feedback we got was, how do I shut it off? Which wasn't actually what I thought. So when I caught wind that Oliver was talking about this, I really thought that this would be valuable for the broad FME audience. And so I'm so glad you can join us today, Oliver. And with that, I think Elizabeth will have us shut off our cams and you can take it away.
Pleasure. Yeah, thank you very much. Lovely to be able to talk to you today. Very, very briefly, and this will be a relatively short talk, I promise, talking about generative AI, hype versus reality, some practical applications. I think that it's really important whenever everybody seems to be talking about generative AI, they always seem to talk about ChatGPT, but it's not just ChatGPT, and it's really important that we recognize that fact, and I'll explain a little bit as to why going forwards. Privacy and security, as just mentioned today, was something that keeps kind of coming up when we talk to clients and prospective clients, and so it's really nice to be able to address those and discuss how you can potentially set up your own generative AI just running on your own laptop or machine. And how that works and how it's easy with FME, another particular tool, to actually make use of a locally running generative AI solution. I'll give you a little bit of a sneak peek because I'm super excited about multimodal models, and just a short wrap up. You're probably familiar with the Gartner hype cycle. We really are kind of at the top now with regards to generative AI, at the peak of inflated expectations. I mean, I don't know how much the trough of disillusionment is going to be, but I suspect that even with the fantastic pace that generative AI is making, it may not be kind of meeting everybody's expectations in the future, but we'll just have to see on that one. It's important to mention that there's a lot of competition out there. I mean, I know that even the last 2 weeks, the talk about OpenAI from their business sense has just been kind of overwhelming the news articles all the time. And all of the focus, I think there's now over 100 million users of ChatGPT. They've had to, I think, partially suspend access or new subscriptions because it's become so popular. But there are many, many tools in the generative AI space, both proprietary ones. For example, Midjourney is absolutely incredible with the type of images and video that you can make from it. There's Google Bard. There's lots of other proprietary players out there. And interestingly, there's also quite a lot of open source solutions. So there are a range of different LLMs or large language models. You have your GPT 3.5 and GPT 4, which are from OpenAI, your Palms from Google. Llama, however, is quite interesting because Meta, the makers of it, made it open source. There's also a couple more. Mistral is a really interesting one from a French company, again, completely open source, and Lava, which is a large language and visual assistant, is what it stands for. I'll go on to explain a little bit more as to why these bottom three models are particularly of interest. Privacy and security. Now, I think everybody is aware that everything that you type into ChatGPT through the front end is potentially utilized or is going to be utilized to help OpenAI build better models going forwards. However, they do make a note in here to say that anything that goes into their APIs and parts of the API isn't used for training their models. But it's quite a small paragraph, and I can understand why people are a little bit cautious as to what exactly they do decide to share with these proprietary tools. The bottom left one is actually a screen grab from Microsoft Azure's platform where you can run the OpenAI models. The one on the right is from a German company called Aleph Alpha, and they are specifically focused on ensuring that whatever they do with their generative AI, it is GDPR compliant. However, I mean, this was updated on the 29th of September this year. The UK government has issued advice on use of generative AI, and it's very specific about basically do not put sensitive information or personal data into these tools. You shall not enter anything, be very cautious around GDPR, and a whole range of kind of concerns. And as a result, what we've seen is that people are very hesitant to basically move to utilize these tools, mainly because their IT teams are saying no, or they're having to wait for an environment to be built up. And if they're having to wait, then in some cases that costs money. Now, I know like a lot of the stuff with generative AI is actually, to me, it seems very good value. For example, ChatGPT is $25 a month for the professional version. When you're using the API, it's literally, it can be less than a cent to run a particular call. But of course, if you're running a lot of processes through it, the costs do add up, particularly on the visual side. So again, if there's other tools out there that are able to help that effectively just cost the processing time on your computer, then perhaps they might be a solution. And this is where tools that allow you to locally deploy generative AI come in. However, you have to be quite careful. There's a range of them out at the moment. But when you look at the terms, even though many are open source, some don't have permissive licenses for commercial use. The one kind of exception that I found at the moment is one called Ollama. You can download it from the ollama.ai website if you've got a Mac. And it's really an interesting one because it's got both a terminal and an API interface. It runs on Linux, Mac, and Windows through Windows Subsystem for Linux. And you can utilize models like the one I mentioned, Mistral, which is about a 5 GB download, and it only needs 8 GB of RAM to run. And you don't necessarily even need to have a graphics card, a decent graphics card for it to work. So really utilizing these tools, both the security concerns and the cost concerns don't necessarily need to block you from using generative AI. Very, very quickly, Windows subsystem for Linux. If you've got Windows 11, you can do this. You just go to the Windows Store, you download Windows subsystem for Linux, or you go through PowerShell and it's one line, and you have another line to install Ubuntu. Once you've done that, it's time to basically install Llama. You do that by, again, a single command line. That will go through and install Llama. That takes about 5 minutes or so, depending on your internet connection and your computer speed. And then once you've done that, you tell it effectively that you want to run Mistral. Now, think of a Llama kind of like Docker for large language models. And what you're doing with this line is basically saying, oh, I want to run Mistral, the model Mistral. It checks what it's got and realizes that it doesn't have that model, so therefore it pulls it down. And there's a range of different models from the Llama site that you can find and pull down very, very easily. And as you can see, it's around 4 gig in size. And yeah, you can already start to see the terminal from which you can actually start to interact with the generative AI model. So here what we have is the ability to run Llama, as I said, in the terminal window. So here I've basically asked it to explain some ArcPy code and give me a little bit of description as to what it's doing. So it's a case of creating a prompt, uploading or copying in that little Python snippet. And yeah, here it's going and performing that response. And as you can see, the performance on my computer, which is a MacBook Air, is actually really quite good and quite akin to what you get with using the ChatGPT interface. However, the other really neat thing is Llama has an API. So bring on the HTTP caller inside FME. Well, you don't actually need to, because we in Tenzing have created an FME hub transformer for you that does the HTTP caller plus a few other things in between. This means that it's actually quite easy to now start to make calls against a model utilizing Llama in the background and effectively run generative AI locally. So you can go to the FME hub, download the local generative AI caller, and yeah, we'll start to give you a little bit of a demo as to what this looks like. So let me just jump in here. So here I've added the local generative AI caller. And what I need to do to that is pass the model that I want to run, any kind of system commands regarding standard templates, a prompt, a temperature, and then as you can see, it's running completely locally. And by basically passing, in this case, I'm prompting with some Python code, and yeah, if I was to run this now, it takes a few seconds, and the output is effectively, yeah, a nice commented Python script with a little bit of a description as to what it does. You can take this further locally. Say you've got addresses that you don't necessarily want to share because of security concerns, but they might be really messy. When I mean messy, I kind of went a little bit crazy with this and created kind of an array of some really all over the place addresses with UK postcodes mixed up and spaces and so forth. So what I decided to do was create a prompt to try and clean that up, but with a defined JSON kind of output here. So specifying that I would like it broken up by postcode, town, city, and so forth. And then, yeah, run that through and get back, yeah, a range of different outputs here, but you kind of get the idea of the output. Does it work every time? Absolutely not. But actually, on the whole scheme of things, it can be pretty powerful to help to clean up some of the data sets. I'm really just trying to give you a little bit of an idea as to what's possible. We mentioned before some of the new features that have come out in 23.1, which is the FME AI assistant, which is very, very cool, because it enables you to, yeah, ask effectively in plain English what you would like to query against in the database. If, however, you can't do this, then I will try to kind of create a mock-up version of this, which allows you to effectively undertake the same principles. So here, creating a a list of all of the table statements out of a Postgres database and writing a prompt that effectively instructs it to find all of the street names within, I don't know, a certain number of meters away from an area, with the full list of all of the table names underneath. And when I output this, I get a response back with SQL here, which I could probably put in there. Yeah, is it that one? Right, let me copy and paste that a second, just to prove that it works. Oh, I think it was in there. There we go. And run that one, and then yeah, you get the same outputs here as actually when I tried to run it a little bit earlier with FME Assist as well, which brings it actually back in. So it's actually quite a nice way of working. Does it work every single time? No. But I think you can start to realize that if you spent a little bit of time prompting, it can be really powerful. And just finally, I'll jump on to summarizing of maybe you wanted to build up a profile of all of the skills that you have within your team. Everybody's kind of passed on their CSV, their CVs or resumes, but in a slightly different structure. So what this one is doing is basically asking for the structure instead to be returned back in a nice broken up format, which enables a JSON response. So that is pretty powerful. And again, let's have a quick look at like an example. So here I've asked it to return back all the software skills that that particular person has got in a JSON array. So again, you can start to see how you can use it for multiple tasks, which yeah, are things that you may not necessarily want to upload to the likes of OpenAI in the first place. Cool. Finally, as I know I'm pushing on time, multimodal models are very exciting. You may have already seen Dimitri's done some fantastic posts about creating some audio output using OpenAI. But again, you can also pass in images and get some text results out and vice versa. We tried to make it quite cool and accessible to people utilizing the OpenAI Vision connector. So again, another FME Hub transformer that we've got for you here. This enables you to pass a JPEG or a PNG of any size into FME and prompt it to ask anything you want from the image. So in this case, a little bit of a description of a French bulldog there. Is it there yet with Lava, which is the open source visual AI that's kind of flavor of the month or flavor of the week, shall we say, at the moment? Not quite. When I compare, for example, a screenshot from an ordnance survey map, ask ChatGPT what it thinks versus what the open source Lava model comes up with, you can see there's really quite a division. However, in saying that, the speed at which these open source language models have come on literally in weeks is so impressive. I mean, they really are contending against what we'd expect from GPT 3.5 now. So I think give it a little bit more time and it may well be just as powerful. So to wrap up, you can use generative AI. It is possible to do so whilst keeping your IT department at bay and your budget in check. You can use it for a whole load of different tasks, whether it be for data cleanup, SQL or Python, code review, generation. And yeah, it's really nice and easy to orchestrate and integrate with FME into your kind of traditional ETL pipelines. So yeah, encourage you to have a look at setting up a Llama locally, using the FME Hub transformers that we've made available to really help you get started in this domain with really kind of step-by-step, easy approaches to really dip your toes in and get familiar. And yeah, be patient. What might not work today, give it a few weeks, because you'll be surprised at how fast this stuff is moving on. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks so much, Oliver, for that. Certainly lots to think about and lots for our audience to consider applying in their own environments. Very, very future stretching. Thank you. Okay, so for our bonus segment, Dimitri at SAFE has been working very hard on a lot of different applications of AI within the FME universe. And we just thought it was too good not to share. This is late breaking stuff. Thanks so much, Dimitri, for being willing to come on. Literally, some of this stuff Dimitri was working on in the last couple of days. But thanks so much for sharing it. And with that, I'll hand it off to you to just tell us what you've been up to and some of the interesting discoveries you've made and projects you've been underway with.
So I see how I should try OpenAI and ChatGPT in general is to somehow make it a part of the normal FME workflow. Not some integration where I just ask for recommendation, not in an interactive way, but rather in a way where AI assistance becomes a part of the workflow.
Yes.
Okay, the very first scenario which I tried, and actually I came up with this idea before I even had access to the API. It was using it for creating textures. So instead of looking for textures all over the web, trying to find least restrictive licenses to use something, why don't we just ask DALL-E for to create for us some textures? And that's what I did. And I can share this link with everybody. It's a LinkedIn post where I show the video how it all works. So, and the workspace is pretty simple. It's this one. I create a simple house, just walls and a roof, and then create this texture setter where we write a prompt where we explain what we would like to get. And we can be quite, poetic when we describe it. We can describe all little details, and it works quite well, as you can see in the images in my post. So like something like this, you can get quite, really, really well. So, that was my first idea, but then the ideas just, started coming one after another. So the second one I created was this one. When we run FME, sometimes we can get errors which are attached to features, and I decided, why don't we try to take those errors and convert them to audio messages? Well, just because we can, but then we could deliver those messages to anywhere we would like to. For example, in this case, I deliver them to Slack. And again, I have a nice video that shows this, but the workspace is like really simple. Here I just find a workflow that generates a good error message, and our raster messages are really good because they are long. They explain how we can resolve a problem, and turn that into an error message and voice error message. The workspace is really simple. Basically, just create an HTTP request using that error message and save the results back as an audio file, and then Slack it to whatever you need it. It doesn't make sense for this simple workspace, but for FME flow, for scheduled workspaces, that might be really nice when you can send that message not only to Slack, but anywhere as an attachment to an email, or maybe a part of, or maybe I can use it sending as just an SMS message or something like that. The next one was this one, where I tried to create a set of colors for AR visualization. So, you can use a random color generator, but FME colors are not that great. Besides, we usually need, for 3D geometries, we need to set 3 different colors: diffuse, ambient, and specular colors. And they should be related, but they shouldn't be identical for, the best visualizations, for the most impressive coloring. So I asked ChatGPT to create those colors for me. And again, that was a workspace here. It's pretty simple. Again, it's just a simple prompt. That's it. No other parameters. And I asked to return to me back diffuse, specular, and ambient colors as triplets, which I simply then split and turned into colors and apply as appearances to my pipes behind walls in a Revit model. That was the last one I worked on the last 2 days is this one, where we pick a projection. And in this case, I really like this one because, well, we all use projections. this is as simple as it can be on the outside. We just take a geometry or multiple geometries. The first geometry will define the reprojection. And then here we just say our preservation goals. For example, would we like to preserve angles for navigation, for example, or do we need to preserve areas for, I don't know, comparison, for analysis, and so on. So we have several preservation goals. We specify the purpose of the map for, the thematic or educational or navigational, and then the scale, global, continental, or maybe local. And what is really interesting, OpenAI, ChatGPT in general, understands what WKT definition of a projection is. So, and you can just ask to send it back to you. So, and it even understands the difference between Esri and OGC versions of projection definition. So, and this is it. So I then simply can run this, and inside it does not look too bad. Basically, here I just prepare the prompt. I maybe can show you, it's in here. You can see that I have those, attributes inserted everywhere. And once we run this, we get a normal prompt that OpenAI understands and can return a WKT file projection definition back to us. We extract it and send to reprojector, and this is it. Then we simply visualize that and we get really nice reprojection. You can again see that in my video in this linked article, and I show how changing parameters influences the output. You will see a few different projections here. So, and this is it.
Fantastic, Dimitri. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I'd love to talk more with you about it, but we do need to move on. So, Dimitri, you're game to stay around for the Q&A at the end here?
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, we're going to just move to some resources, and then we'll wrap up with some Q&A. So, if you've not got it yet, you should get our ebook on Spatial Data for the Enterprise, GZC on FME Lee. That's how we say it. FME Academy is there where you can learn all about FME, dig in at your own pace. That's on a new platform, and we're very, very pleased with that. Got a knowledge base with lots of how-tos and the way to get things done. Of course, the on-demand webinars are all there, the archive of things in the past, plus Elizabeth's fine list of things that are coming up in the future. And in terms of other next steps, you can go ahead and contact us at info@safe.com. Or if you want to really understand FME with the help of an instructor, you can sign up, and in 90 minutes, you too will get the complete FME Accelerator experience. And Elizabeth, you always can get a community badge. Can you tell us what the community badge today is?
Yeah, so as a thank you for joining us, everyone, we have a community badge code for you to redeem if you're part of the FME community. I will drop that code in the chat now, and it's also on the screen there for you. And if you aren't yet a part of the FME community, definitely check it out. It's a great place to network with other users and experts alike.
And with that, let's go to some Q&A. And Elizabeth, you got some panelists ready to go, and let's see what people are asking.
Excellent. Yes. So I'll invite our panelists on the stage here, and we can take a look at the questions panel and what all came in during the webinar. Fantastic. Yeah, some really good questions that came in. I know we got to a couple of them, but were there any that stood out to you that we might want to get started with addressing here?
I'm still absorbing all that we just saw, Elizabeth. That was quite a tour de force of AI and FME. So thanks. Our audience has largely stayed with us into overtime here. Appreciate everybody hanging in there all this time. We've got Oliver and Dennis with us too. Anything that jumps, I think Oliver and Dennis, you can probably see the questions there, I hope. Yep. And so anything that pops out, I will pick on this one here. Does SAFE have any plan to develop our own chatbot? That sounds like a good thing. A chatbot to develop FME Workspaces. And actually, we've already got internally some of these trained. It just was announced by OpenAI just before they had all their corporate excitement the ability to have sort of a predefined or a personality-based chatbot that you can parameterize the general ChatGPT and publish that. So we've got a few inside. There's a transformer recommender, a format recommender, these sorts of things that have been trained with our own documentation. And I was commenting to our documentation team that their job isn't actually to produce documentation for humans anymore. It's to produce documentation for the AI, and the humans will interact with the AI to get what they want to know. So the answer is we are underway with experimenting. We will use services that are already there. And it's like literally there was stuff written on one of our key engineers boards about 4 weeks ago, which was all invalidated by product announcements that came out after that. So the field is moving very, very fast, and we will do our best to deliver value to you, because we really realize that having all the knowledge of the universe available to our FME users at their fingertips is going to help them on that FME learning curve, get the FME brain going even faster than before. So the answer is yes, we're working on it. Don't have anything to show you right today, but watch this space. So that's my answer to that one, Elizabeth.
The people love it. Awesome.
There was one question from Andre about I think trying to allude to using a RAG model or a retrieval augmented generation. So this is where you use effectively the standard language model, but on top of that you add your own data sets, just kind of what you were alluding to, Dale, but trying to do that to run something locally. With a llama, what you can do is you can create these embeddings which are effectively turning words into tokens and then converting them into effectively an ID or a number. And that can get stored against a range of kind of new upcoming databases called vector databases. Unfortunately, that's going to cause more confusion with geography and geometry fields, I'm sure, going forwards. But yeah, these vector databases are where you effectively store these kind of stemmed words. And yeah, we are starting to look at how we can kind of interact with that so that you can actually utilize a llama not only to kind of make queries or run requests against existing models, but supplement that with effectively like local PDFs or local text documents. And it's quite an exciting space at the moment to be playing around with that for sure. So yeah, it's coming basically, I reckon.
I think I don't even remember what RAG stands for, but that's kind of what this is, right, Oliver?
Yeah, retrieval augmented generation. I just looked it up. I don't know that off the top of my tongue. Yeah.
Yes, but that's all around basically really providing kind of targeted additional information that helps the model really nail its response. And that's an area that's just exploding in the last, like, literally weeks and months. Yeah,
exactly. Particularly if you find that your queries kind of hallucinate or start making things up, having a RAG model behind it to reinforce the things that you really want it to find and report back, that's super important, basically.
And that's like that transformer recommender that actually Stuart at SAFE put together basically won't make things up because it has been fed the list. This is the definitive list of FME transformers. I remember when we first, like a year ago, it's actually, we're a couple of days less than a year from when ChatGPT hit. So literally 1 year ago, we couldn't have imagined that we'd be doing this webinar today. One of my first interactions, I asked it how to do something or another, and it started telling me, and I thought, wow, I didn't know we had a Salesforce record updater transformer. And then, I believed it for quite a while, and then I actually began to check and realize it was actually just making up transformer names that look like other transformer names. So, that's the idea of RAG, is that you do not have that making up. So it's basically knows it's constrained, and it's sort of been reminded, here's the list that you can work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's try, should I try a really tough one? Andre asking if he's going to be enjoying his chatbot. I have a bad feeling that line might live on, that I accidentally hit. But what is the progression of all this integration? And will a chatbot replace the need for transformers? I think that the interesting thing for us is how can we augment the human, first of all, so they find what they need better, but then can the human write some kind of chat that puts together strings of transformers? What we're really realizing, or at least right now our thinking is that often in FME situations, you don't actually fully understand or know all that you want done from where you are right now with your source data to where you want to get to in your destination. So writing that story to tell the chatbot what you'd want done is a little bit hard to do. It's just too much. But you generally tend to know what you'd like to do for the next 1 or 2 or 3 things. Oh, I want to do this. And so can we get APIs within Workbench, within FME Flow that let you get help creating those next few steps? So we're all in on OpenAPI, which is the definition spec for how you call services, which OpenAI has really adopted as the way for OpenAI's chats to interact with the outside universe. So if we can put APIs on top of FME things, then that's a way that you can imagine the chatbot doing more and more for us. But I actually think a human on one end to kind of decide overall what the strategy is, at least until we have artificial general intelligence, AGI, the human is going to be doing that. What's the overall strategy? And the human likes to do that in bits and pieces, generally doesn't understand the whole beginning and end fully. And underneath that, the low-level code that's tuned up and optimized, and the result of 30 years of very smart people working very, very hard to actually execute that is needed. And the part in the middle is going to be where the chatbot can really, really be like, I guess, as Steve Jobs would say, a bicycle for the mind that gets us going way faster than we thought before. So that's my crack at it. I'd be interested, Dennis, what is your take on this one? Are we going to need a human in this? Are we going to need FME in
Yeah,
years?
I think it's really interesting, but at least for the next few years, I can't really imagine anything at least that advanced. But I mean, things have happened so fast that it's hard to imagine anything for the future. So maybe it'll be faster than we can imagine, and in a few years, everything will be happening automatically, but at least I can't really imagine it. So I think we will still develop workspaces for quite a while.
Good, because I know we've got some great features coming in Workbench that it would be a shame for the robots not to use. What about you, Oliver? Do you think that we're going to need an FME in 10 years?
I just think that, yeah, the interface is going to change a little bit, and I think it's going to become a lot more assistive. I saw literally this morning on my flick through like Twitter and X that somebody had wired up effectively the visual ChatGPT. So every literally it would pass the desktop screen that they have in front of them, and they wrote a command basically going, go to Google and search for this. And so purely through taking snapshots of the screen and generating prompts, it was able to take control. ChatGPT was able to take control of the screen, go to the browser, type in Google, and then basically search. Like, it was kind of crazy. So it is really happening so fast. I mean, one of the things I was thinking about just initially was just literally taking a screenshot of or just having a screenshot of some of your workspace, and then literally going to passing that to ChatGPT to say, okay, describe what you see on the screen and the process, and what do you reckon the next tool is, and really help with that kind of recommendation effort. So the visual component to me is the one that's really going to come on the most over the coming months, and it's pretty scary where it's going for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and so fast, so fast. So let's see, what else do we have here? Will we consider bundling or integrating more? Whoops, I should probably push this button. More AI solutions inside of FME, or make them callable? And I think the answer is yes. We'll keep looking at that. Obviously, we prefer ways that we don't have to add it to the FME installer, so that those folks that don't need to use it don't have to kind of deal with it. But if we have ways through FME Hub and other ways like that, the more sort of agile deployments, that would be very, very helpful, I think, to make that easily accessible. So we will keep looking at that for sure. Let's see. Any other ones we should look at? Oh, this is one also to ask our panelists. Do we see any way that the genie can be put back in the bottle? You can tell where I'm leaning in terms of governance for AI. This is a more general overall approach. Again, Dennis, what's your hunch at that?
Yeah, interesting. At least where I come from, the government will try to do at least something. And I don't know, different countries are already looking into how to work on that, how to make AI more safe from the beginning. So don't even try to train it with harmful data and so on. But if it's really possible, I mean, now that it's out there, the technology already exists and so many people can create their own models, and it's not just big companies anymore. So it's going to be hard to put a stop to all of this. So I guess there will be some guidelines, but it's not really possible to put it all back, right?
Yeah, it's too. I mean, Oliver's showing us we can basically get these things and install them on our MacBook Airs, and off we go. So the genie, I think, is out of the bottle on this one. Let's see. Anything else we should talk about? I want to ask Dimitri, what's your next project going to be?
Well, you probably saw I just tried creating iron cast fences with image creation, but as well, I was listening to the webinar. I also tried to turn an image into a 3D geometry, and it all works. Of course, you don't need AI for that, but you know, with a few words, you can get a very nice model of a real 3D model of a fence. Play with that. But on the AI front, I'm not sure, but I certainly would like to try some interactivity. That wouldn't make sense, you know, in a workspace, but some kind of interactive FME flow workspace would be really interesting to see how it would work.
Yeah. I'm actually going to, in addition we're just about to wrap up. We caught wind of these folks in the last couple of days. I just posted a link to Twitter there, who are going to have a service where you can type some English and it'll give you back a 3D object. And so we'll end up creating a custom transformer. And if you have an account with those folks, you can start typing and get the object. And then Dimitri has a transformer that'll put a texture on it from AI. And all of a sudden you can be creating castles or whatever it is you need to, and routing them into your Revit model, and off you'll go. So this again, it's just exploding very, very fast, and FME is well positioned to sit in the middle and glue these things together. But I think with that, Elizabeth, we're into our second overtime, and we have only a couple minutes left. So maybe it's time to wrap it up.
Yes, huge thank you to everyone for joining us here today for the full 90 minutes. It was a special webinar with 4 different segments here, so huge thank you as well to our teams from Locus, Conterra, and Tensing, and of course, Dimitri, for all your time preparing this content. Thanks, everyone. And if you do have a moment to fill out the webinar survey, we appreciate any feedback there as well. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.